welcome back to the show. This is super exciting. On our show today, we have from 1981 NHL draft, we have Doug Smith telling us all about his wonderful career, lots of great stories. He's going to tell us one about Guy Lafleur, but also we're going to talk later about Doug Smith performance. They're wonderful things he's doing for the community and his fellow athletes. So, Doug, I'll hand it off to you. Tell us that that Guy
Lafleur and Larry Robinson became good friends one day when we were driving in a limousine in Toronto on the 401 to Wayne Gretzky's tennis tournament. And our limo driver fell asleep and hit the median, and the limo spun around, and it was big. Nobody got hurt, but ever since it happened, like we were close, and every time I saw Guy, until he passed away, I'd always go up to him because there was always a line in front of him, right? I'd say to Guy, I'd give him a hug, and I'd say, "It's great to be alive, huh?"
Wow.
And Guy would look at me. He always well dressed, his hair's perfect. He would look at me every time. This happened 4 or 5 times. He'd say, "It's good to be Guy."
Wow, that is.
I'm saying it's good to be alive, and Guy Lafleur is looking at me and going, "It's good to be Guy."
So back then you played, like, let's say the 81, because Gretzky I think he was 70, came to the NHL 79. So you guys are like the same age, and Guy Lafleur smoking cigarettes on the bench.
No, it was, I came into the league at a time where they were looking for solutions to advance the league. I mean, you lower the age to change the culture, but the culture hadn't changed, and I arrived. And so I got damaged emotionally in Los Angeles. I was lucky to survive physically. So I survived physically. I'm happy to be here. And now I go back and help others, both in the armed forces, because the hockey story works there. And in hockey, guys like Tony McKegney, have become very close. Even though we didn't play together, he came to Buffalo shortly after I left. But we've become very close friends, and the whole black conversation is important.
So let's talk about this now, Doug. It's very important now. We'll just sort of change the subject a little bit. So let's talk about leading into your injury, how that happened a little bit. I mean, you don't have to go into detail, obviously, but let's talk about that, because I'm sure a lot of people don't. A lot of people don't remember or know, or would like to know. And then we can talk about how you turn your negative into a positive, right? Your accident. So tell our viewers about that day or that incident or that time.
So the impact force of going into the boards at 22 miles an hour is the same as accelerating from 0 to 100 kilometers an hour in 1/3 of a second, which would hurt you.
Yep.
It would hurt your organs. And so I went head first, full speed. I'm going to be presenting that video. It's the only video in the world I know of where a professional hockey player ends his career going into the end boards, breaking his neck. So I'm going to be revealing that, shortly. And then life started over when I hit the boards and shattered my spine and, shattered.
What year was that now?
In 1992, February 7th.
Okay.
Yeah, when I shattered my spine, I was lying on the ice and I knew I'd broken my back. And it wasn't all the goals and all the accolades that I thought of when I was in that position. It was all the times I didn't show up for other people. That's what I saw more clearly than anything. Wow. And then what was I going to do? Right. And I made a commitment that I was going to do better than I had already done. So I was going to do better than playing with Mario Lemieux. I was going to do better than playing against Wayne Gretzky. I was going to do better than scoring in the Miracle on Manchester, in Los Angeles.
That's a warrior attitude, Doug. That's a warrior attitude. That's a hockey attitude. It's like, I'll meet the challenge. So you got that in your blood. So congratulations. That's amazing.
Well, you know what? I can't say it's easy all the time, but, get into the right rhythms.
Yep. No, this is great. So, okay. So continue. Yep.
So where were we?
We were just saying, so you into the board, 22 miles an hour.
So I shattered my spine. I had 3 surgeries. In the 3rd surgery, I woke up in ICU, a quadriplegic. My wife had just had our 2nd child 1 week before.
Explain to our viewers quadriplegic. So
I lost everything: arms, legs, bladder, bowels. Like I wasn't on a respirator. Okay. But other than being on a respirator, I didn't have anything.
Wow.
So everything. Wow, it's hard to go back there. Everything that I knew to be real was taken away from me.
Wow. Okay, so
which was my physical capability, because I could always dominate physically. It didn't matter what it was.
Yeah. Wow, thank you for sharing. So, okay, so let's move it forward, 'cause I don't want to spend too much time, because that must have been a hard time in your life. So
I'll
let's,
come back
yeah,
on and I'll tell how I'll explain exactly how I did it, because there's a lot of people listening right
yeah,
now that have people in their family that could use this,
100%.
because it's not about the physical trauma, right? It's about how we work the mind, and that'll relate to the physical. So it's easier than people think, and we'll tell them about it next time.
Okay, okay. So let's move forward now. Talk about how you now have created Doug Smith Performance, and some of the benefits and some of the great stuff you do for, your fellow athletes or veterans or just people in the community. Tell us about the performance platform now.
Well, after having failures and successes, around many things as we do, I decided to sit down and write a book in 2008. And then after I finished writing the book, the scientific community came to me and said, everything you're saying lines up with the scientific research. So I sat down to write another book. That was quite a painful time for a guy with ADHD, right?
Sure.
And so I finished 2 books, and the second book became like this huge hit, an unbelievable hit. It's called The Trauma Code. And it's all about unlocking your performance and about how everybody suffers from trauma. I'm able to prove this to people now unequivocally, like that everybody suffers from it. And if you believe that you don't, then you're just unaware.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that. Like, tell us the talking points that you could sort of build on if people are interested. So, like,
Oh yeah. There's
yeah,
only 4 types of trauma we suffer from, and out of those 4, there's only one we can't see, and that's the only one that we need to care about, which is cumulative emotional trauma, because our brain is coded. It gets coded. Look at this hockey player that somebody made me. The brain gets. These are psychiatry books. The brain gets coded first. Then there's a hesitation. There's a gap, and then consciousness occurs. So you can't prevent becoming what you're around. So where you put yourself, who you put yourself with, what you put yourself around, you will become like it. It's not your choice.
wow.
Let's just put it that way.
And you've lived it, so you've lived it.
My story just synchronizes in, and I become a practitioner in several modalities as well. So we'll talk about that in the next time.
Wow. So if somebody is so give me an example, like if someone's watching or listening to us right now, and they may be a hockey player, they may not, but they're sort of going through struggles in their life. How could you help them? How could you advise? What would you say to them?
Thanks a lot, Jay. Pick up Your Inner Physician in You by John Upledger. It will teach you that the central nervous system beats at 11 beats a minute, and it feeds the heart rate and breathing. We don't learn about what the central nervous system does for us. So if you pick up Your Inner Physician in You by Dr. John Upledger, he founded the Brain and Spinal Cord Dysfunction Center in Palm Gardens, Florida. He's passed away just a couple of years ago. But his work, once you read this book, it will change the whole way you think about it. And then you'll have to make a choice. And I love putting people in a position where they have to make a choice. Like, we have to do something.
Yep. No, this is wow, this is such important information. So if people want to find out more information, I want to come back and talk to you about the connection you have with your hat that you're wearing. So, but before we do that, if people are, like I said, are struggling or just want to find out more information, Doug, I know you're in the Ottawa area, but this is right across Canada and the world. Where could they go? Where your website? Could you give it out?
DougSmithPerformance.com. And if they want to download a meditation all my work is being transferred into meditations right now. All you do is go to my website, DougSmithPerformance.com / what you want, relax.
And we're going to put it on our website too.
/ relax. Yeah. And what you'll find is a free download there. And I challenge you to stay awake. Just follow the suggestions, and then try to stay awake at bedtime.
This is great. So let's take another quick break. I want to come back. I want to talk about your connection with you in Ottawa and the Senators, your hat, and whatever else we're going to talk about. So stay tuned. You're watching Press Box. We have on the show today former NHLer Doug Smith, and we'll be right back.